Greetings, chess players. My name is Chris Torres. This is Daily Chess Musings, and it is Wednesday. What day is it? July 3rd? No, Wednesday, July 2nd, I think. Let me check my calendar. What day is it? It is Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025. We are in the middle of the free online summer chess camp that I put on every year using the Daily Chess Musings community. What's the Daily Chess Musings community? It is a community that grew around my now famous blog, and it extends from dailychessmusings.com to the chess club, Daily Chess Musings, on chess.com, to the YouTube channel, Daily Chess Musings. Together, we do live lessons, live tournaments, and I do actually a lot more writing on the blog than I do videos, but I enjoy doing both. Today we are going to look at a third live lesson. On Monday, I did Paul Morphy versus Hart. On Tuesday, we looked at Capablanca versus Van Foreest. And today, the third of my favorite chess players, Bobby Fischer, is going to be featured. And we're going to look at his game against Efim Geller from 1961. Let me switch screens. Clear my throat. So Efim Geller is on the top because he plays the black pieces, and of course Bobby Fischer is pictured underneath. What should you know about Efim Geller? Well, he was Soviet champion during the Soviet hegemony of top-level chess. Twice he was Soviet champion. 6 times he played in the candidates to try and get to the World Championship match. And he also, I mean, he had so many highlights in his career. Extremely gifted chess player. But he also coached Boris Spassky and Anatoly Karpov. So he ended up coaching 2 of the Soviet-Russian players who would end up becoming world champion. Bobby Fischer, you guys heard a lot about earlier in a video about his birthday. But he's one of my favorite chess players ever. He was tenacious at the chessboard. He was a fighting chess player. He would win as black or as white. He wasn't, like other top grandmasters who were trying to win as white, draw as black. He faced tournaments where, maybe the other 9 players were all Russian, Soviet players kind of colluding and working together. And he managed to defeat the best of them, win tournaments against overwhelming odds, and become world champion by beating one of Geller's students, Boris Spassky. So let's take a look. 1961. Bled was in what was known as Yugoslavia at the time, and now it is known as Slovenia. It's a beautiful, beautiful site for a chess tournament up in the mountains. Let's take a look. All right. So Bobby Fischer, you guessed it, he starts with e4. And Efim Geller plays e5. Knight f3, knight c6. We talked about these moves in the earlier lessons. And now, bishop b5, the Ruy Lopez, the Spanish opening. Ruy Lopez, named after a Spanish monk who wrote down a whole bunch of the opening variations in his diary, in his journal, because he was taking a vow of silence. But it didn't stop him from playing against himself on a chessboard and writing down opening variations. Some 600 years ago. Let's see. So black could play knight f6 here, which is, a Berlin. And then white could, if black does that, white could even transpose to a 4 knights if they don't feel like playing the Berlin. But most common is a6. And that is called the Morphy defense, named after, you guessed it, Paul Morphy. Now, most often, players do what Bobby Fischer did here, and that is bishop a4. And that is, continuing to keep pressure on the knight, keep the bishop on the board. Certainly, and sometimes I do, fairly often actually, just go ahead and play the exchange. It's easy to play. It's a pretty easy opening to play. You castle. And then if black doesn't play f6, they're going to be in a little bit of trouble. And so sometimes your opponent gets worried about moving Freddy early. And then I like to challenge e5, push to d4, take extra space, capture, I'll go ahead, take back, and then oftentimes a high-class opponent will play c5, and then I could play knight b3 or knight e2. Doesn't really matter to me. Depends, I guess, on my mood. And then this gets played, and queens are off the board. And that's just like a quick example of maybe how to, the quick example of the exchange variation in the Ruy Lopez. You don't have to play bishop a4, but it's a good move. It's a good move. All right, so black has a bunch of different options here, like a ton. I could spend an hour just going through the next few moves if I wanted to do an in-depth lesson on the Ruy Lopez, but that's not what this is. Geller plays d6, and that's known as the modern Steinitz defense. So it's a modern move order to the Steinitz defense, named after Wilhelm Steinitz. So all these great players we discuss regularly have opening lines attributed to them. And of course, since it's named after Steinitz, 4d6 makes perfect sense here, as it adds a defender to e5, right? e5's defended, but it's also opening a diagonal for the bishop. Let me check my screens real fast. Oh, good. We are still doing good. We'll get a little farther into the game, and then we'll start guessing moves. Sometime I should do an in-depth Ruy Lopez discussion. Bobby castles, and he's completed 2 of the 3 opening goals. Pawn in the center, castle, but it's going to be a while till his rooks are unified, right? There's a lot of things still in the back rank, but he's completed 2 of the opening goals. And Geller comes out, pinning the knight, develops the bishop, pinning the knight, bishop g4. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Bishops early on, especially, they like to pin knights or control long diagonals, because you bring a bishop out, it was sleeping here, now it's awake, and it takes away the knight's abilities. So this is what they like to do. And then a lot of times we don't like, if we're white, we don't like our knight being pinned. So we can put the question to the bishop. Hey, what are you going to do? Now, taking here, I mean, it's playable, but then you're going to allow this queen to develop. You could maybe push to get rid of this real fast, and then you could go there, I guess, and then you have like a fork, and then the queen goes back maybe, something like that. It's playable, But I think, you know, the strong preference ought to be just backing up, maintaining the pin. All right. Let us see what happens next. Oh, there's one other thing that I should mention. This is, I do some interesting things sometimes, all right? So against h3, I like to use kind of a fishing pole idea if I get the chance. And what does that mean? That means defending the bishop with the pawn. Now, black's going to be in serious, white's going to be in serious trouble if they take and take, because then this knight moves and the queen can come out and deliver checkmate. So for example, boom, boom, this knight should go somewhere, right? I mean, we'll just move it somewhere. We could put it here, and then this queen comes out, and look at this. That's bad. So I like to play this fishing pole, is what this is called, h5 here, and it's perfectly playable because if they take our bishop, they're in trouble. And for example, if they play d4, then I like to play b5, breaking the pin, bishop b3, and then I take on knight takes d4 because this knight is still pinned. It's still pinned for the moment. And then hx g4, hx g4, and now this knight can go to g5, right? And then maybe I do knight h6. And this is pretty wild. This is a pretty wild position. You know, our knight and pawn are controlling or fighting for control of f3, which is dangerous. This pawn is always dangerous to advance. If we get this knight to move, our queen just comes out here, you know. It's a fun line, and I play it to good effect. All right, so that's a little bit about the fishing pole. Again, I don't want to get into too much of my opening knowledge on the Ruy Lopez, because that's not what this lesson's supposed to be about. All right, so bishop h5 was played, and Bobby Fischer plays c3. Okay, so this connects these two, gives scope to, you know, just in case b5 gets played, it means the bishop can retreat to either of these squares, but it's preparing d4 as well. So it's a very good move. And this is where Geller goes for it. He takes a risk. He plays kind of what is now known as an inferior move. He plays queen f6, bringing the queen out early. Yeah, it opens the possibility of castling queenside, but do we really care about that? Because this would fracture those pawns. No, we don't. Black doesn't want to do that. Queen f6 puts double pressure on the knight. It's an interesting move, but it is proven to be maybe a little inferior. And not even maybe. I mean, you could simply play like b5 and break the pin. You could play bishop e7, right? You could play knight f6. These are all good moves here. But queen f6, as Fischer shows us, is probably a mistake. All right. So queen f6 was played, and Fischer breaks the pin. Bishop goes to g6, obviously. And then he plays d4, striking at the center. Look, this king's still in the center. And like I said earlier, it shouldn't really castle because we can easily fracture those pawns. So let's see what he does. Oh, yeah, there's one other aspect to this. d4, you might say, what's defending e4, Bobby? You know what's defending it? The fact that if black goes grabbing pawns, like that. Bishop takes e4. And then white can develop with threats against that bishop, gaining time. Plus, when you do this, there's one less pawn in the e-file, right? So Bobby's like, go ahead, take the pawn. I challenge you. And Geller's like, challenge accepted, Bobby. Did you see that I'm threatening your knight twice? Did Bobby Fischer see that? Yes, he did. Knight b to d2, threatening the bishop, adding the second defender to the knight. So probably the bishop takes, well, definitely the bishop takes e4 was a mistake. It was a mistake. So what, at this point, I mean, the queen's already on f6. We said that was a mistake. What should black have done? Maybe b5. Right? Maybe b5. That's totally playable. Or if you want to really get naughty, maybe h5. Threatening to open up white's king. See, when you put the question to the bishop, you advance these pawns. It makes it easier to disrupt the pawn shield. Had that happen, I'm sure Bobby Fischer would have developed with the threat. Bishop g5. Then you got to put the queen somewhere, probably e6 to add to the pressure in the g-file. But then d5. Look at this. There's a fork with a pin. Wow. So maybe this idea doesn't work out so good. I guess queen c8. I would give up my knight to keep the pressure on g4. I would totally do that. dx c6, bx c6, maybe not. Maybe b5 actually, because this gets you a tempi. That gets you the initiative. You're threatening something. So now black seizes the initiative. Take. Uh-oh. This looks... maybe knight h2. Knight h2. That's probably right. And then g3. Knight goes back to g4. Rook takes h3. This gets a little chaotic. You could come up and threaten the rook, but then the rook could return fire against the bishop. Maybe this goes here and this goes here. And now you survive the first wave of the attack, but at the cost of losing your entire pawn shield. This king is 100% exposed. That's an interesting line right there. That's an interesting line. The h5. Hang on. Let me go back. So what we are saying is after 10d4, maybe Geller should have played h5. Very aggressive. Maybe queen f6 leads to some interesting ideas. We'll have to study this further. We'll have to study that further at another time. All right, so d4, bishop takes e4. Develop with the threat, add the second defender. Bishop's got to go away, we would think. I mean, you could play bishop takes f3, right? And just trade. Knight takes f3 and then maybe e4. Yeah, maybe. I think Geller's probably right. Bishop g6. That's what he plays. And now it is time for us to guess Bobby Fischer's moves. So we are now on move 10. No, move 11. Move 11. What do you guys think Bobby Fischer should do? Go ahead, type it into the chat. While you are doing that, my name is Chris Torres. I am a correspondence chess master at the United States Chess Federation, and I'm the Cal Chess Scholastic Coordinator. I've been the main coach in Northern California for 25 years, over 25 years, And I have shown students over those years a bunch of Bobby Fischer games. He was one of my favorite players of all time. So you know, certainly all the most famous ones. You know, the Fischer Spassky, the Game of the Century, all of these. But as with the other players, as with Paul Morphy and Capablanca, I have gone through detailing my thoughts. Bishop to c6, Boron. That is correct. All right. Excellent on you. We have a check capture. We should be looking at checks, captures, threats. We look at it first. What we realize is if we take here, we're going to fracture these pawns. Therefore, that king probably has nowhere to hide. He's just stuck in the center. Plus, when you get rid of this, that means even if black plays this, it's not defending e5 anymore, right? You're permanently taking a defender off e5. And why is e5 important? Because on the other side of e5 is the king. And I see that Suvama also agreed. Great. Thanks for participating. So yeah, boom, smack. And now, move 12. What does Bobby Fischer play? We go forward one move. So yeah, over the years I've taught many Bobby Fischer games, Paul Morphy games, Capablanca games to my students. You'll find some of those lessons. These days I put almost all of my lessons up on my blog. There's, you know, thousands of chess lessons there. But if you just search, you just go to Daily Chess Musings, search Capablanca. Go to Daily Chess Musings, search Fischer, Fischer. You know, you search for, or Morphy, and you're going to find a bunch of these lessons. But back in the day, I didn't put them all up. Queen to e2 is what Boron thinks. You know what? That's a classy move, my friend. It's putting more pressure on the tension in the center and putting the queen in the same file as the king. But it is not what Bobby Fischer did. It is not. But it is a good option. It's good that you spotted that. Bobby went ahead and just took. He's destroying Black's pawn structure. Black's pawn structure is disintegrating. And now, what does Bobby Fischer play on move 13? Move 13. This is fun. I like the interaction with my students. I do most of my teaching in person. And if you see me at a chess tournament, because like I said, I'm the scholastic coordinator for Cal Chess, I go around, I take photos of chess tournaments, I go around help. If you see me and it's like, you know, I'm taking a little break at a chess tournament, you could just ask. You could say, hey, Coach Chris, I was in your summer camp. Would you show me a quick Morphy game? I'd be more than happy to. Just like we're doing here. All right. So we get a couple of people suggesting Queen e2. No, not on this move, not on the last move. Look what he does. Free pawn. Geller can't take because queen would be pinned to king. That's the end of the story. See? Look here. Then maybe the best thing you could do is just this, right? So knight takes e5. Boom! Center's completely open. Look who's in the center. Look who's been caught in the center. So bishop d6, threatening the knight. And move. Let's see. Oh, let me promote this. Promote my line in my notes here. Move 14. What does Bobby Fischer play here? Go ahead, take a shot at it. This is fun. I like playing Guess the Move with you guys. And this, like I said, this is a technique you can use with your parents, with your friends, with your spouse, you know, anybody. Knight f3. There's two different ways you could do that. And neither of those is what he does. Anybody else? Knight c6. Interesting. But that wins a pawn, doesn't keep the initiative. Fischer plays knight g6 because that takes a bishop. So he's +3 in material, and he's threatening a rook. So Geller has to respond to this. He doesn't get to play a free move. If you just go here, not only that, but I mean, it looks like if you just play knight c6, maybe Geller sacks his bishop. And then that's a check, and then you take the knight, right? So there's like this discovered attack on the knight. So knight takes g6, keeps the initiative. It trades a piece, threatens a piece, keeps the initiative. Queen takes g6. All right. That's probably best. That's probably best. But you know, sometimes it's fun to play what if. So this is another technique I use to learn more about chess games. Instead of just saying, okay, best move, queen takes g6, is what the grandmaster says, what the computer agrees with. What if? What if h takes g6? It doesn't look that bad. It's threatening h4, right? What if? Well, knight could go to e4. So that's a problem. And then the queen could go to h4. And now that's a huge problem for white, right? But check it out. Knight takes d6 check. That works because it's a check. That means this can't go there. You get rid of the dangerous bishop that was peering down into the house of your king. You get rid of that guy. And then cx d6, right? And then do we just go for, I think we just go for it. Queen takes d6. We tell him, go ahead, take this pawn. If you want it, go ahead and take it, right? Because if queen takes h3, rook e1 is check. And that's the end of the game. Yeah, I mean, if the only thing I could do is like this, right? Yeah. And then this, and then boom. That's the end of the game. Whoa. But of course, he didn't have to take on h3, right? So we have to ask ourselves, if we're playing what if, we have to ask ourselves, well, after queen takes d6, what if they play knight e7 first? And that's a little tricky. Well, I think we play rook takes e1. And the reason is, now we're saying if you take h3, boom, checkmate. See, this queen's backward defending it, and we're pinning it, right? And then they could come and threaten our queen, I suppose. We could keep the double pressure. They could get castled. That might be best. It might just be best to give up the knight. It might just be best to get castled. Let's see if they can hang on to it, though. I mean, if they castle, we win a knight. If they try and hang on to it. Oh. There is, see, the queen's defending the bishop, right? This is beautiful geometry right here. I love it. Look at that. That's beautiful. And this is a fork. Oh, man. I think they're toast. I think they're toast. You can learn to spot this kind of geometry using checks, captures, and threats. Helps you, and then you start recognizing the patterns. And then you start noticing the geometric relationships. And that's when the magic really happens. So yeah, queen can take, but then we're just gonna take, check. And then, I mean, if rook takes, it's just checkmate, right? So maybe king f8, maybe. And then we could do like this. You know what's even more fun though? Look at this. Just do like this. Check, boom, and then you can reload. You could bring in another rook, right? Ah, and then here they go again. They can just delay. They can just delay. They got nowhere to go. So boom, smack, boom, checkmate. All they can do is delay. All right. So those are some fun what ifs. That's something else I like to do when I'm studying chess games. This was a substantial what if, but it was fun. All right. So knight takes g6 is what Bobby Fischer played, remember? Keeps the initiative. And then queen takes g6 is what Geller played, because those what ifs didn't look so good for black, and he did that in his mind. He did that in his mind. Yes, those were possibilities. I call them what ifs. Sometimes the things that weren't played on the chessboard are equally as interesting and educational as the actual game. When you learn that, the world opens up to you. Hello, Lola. What are you doing? My dog came and says hi. So Bobby Fischer, oh, we're back to Bobby Fischer guessing. What does he do on move 15? Geller just did this, took back. So what do you think Bobby Fischer should do? Go ahead. I'll take a sip of my bubble water. Yeah, if you like Bobby Fischer on dailychessmusings.com, you can just go to the search. There's like a little search box if you scroll down, and you just type in Bobby Fischer. Or just Fischer, F-I-S-C-H-E-R. Hit search, and it'll give you a whole bunch of my notes and lessons on Bobby Fischer from over the years. A bunch of, he had a lot of great puzzles that came directly from his games. What do you think White should do here? Move 15. I don't see anybody suggesting a move quite yet. Are you guys stumped? Knight to e4. Okay. So this knight does want to move, but not to e4. Oh, wait. I see what you're saying. Little trap. Cute. Cute. All right. Rook e1. Check. That's pretty good, too. I think knight goes to e7 then. All right. So Bobby Fischer played knight c4, though. Reason is, this bishop is dangerous. If black plays h5, all of a sudden, see, it looks like we're in control, right? But imagine we don't move this knight. Imagine black plays h5. Suddenly, black has a very dangerous attack. Yes, we can throw in a check, but they could just kind of move out of the way. And then they have this dangerous attack on us. Whoa. It's smoking. This is what this guy wants to do. This is what this guy wants to do. Geller's no fish. That's what he wants to do. So, Bobby plays knight c4. He wants to get rid of this piece. It also opens up the bishop, by the way. So the bishop could come to f4. Once he gets rid of this, the bishop could go to f4, and then it could fall back and defend against the queen, right? But he needs to get rid of this bishop first. And for sure, Geller plays h5. Boom! Here he comes, creating big threats. And then obviously Bobby just takes, pawn takes, because you want to keep the big threats. You don't want to trade queens. And then, yeah, bishop f4. Yes, it's threatening, but it's also ready to come back and block, jump in the line of fire. The bishop, I call this an all-star piece. Bishop f4 is now an all-star. It's the most valuable piece that white has on the board. It may be worth 3, rooks may be worth 5, but tell me, Is the bishop worth more right now than the rook on a1? Absolutely. Is the bishop worth more than the rook on f1? Absolutely. Is the bishop worth more than the queen on d1? Probably. Right? This is an all-star piece. All right. Brilliant. And then black, let's see. Did I miss a move? I hope not. I think I did. Oh, I messed up the game. Coach Chris. Coach Chris. When did I miss the game? Or mess up the game? Way back. I see. I see. I made... You know what? This happens. Yeah. They said, yes, you did mess up the game, Coach Chris. It happens to the best of us. I could feel bad, but I've sat in on classes with great chess teachers over the years. Very famous chess players and teachers. And I've seen them mess up too. We're humans here. All right, so let's see what I did. I got too far in my what ifs, and I never played rook e1 check. Look, he's in the open. All right, king f8. And then knight c4. I skipped one move. He's targeting d6 again because it is very dangerous after h5. We want to get rid of this bishop. h5 is played. Knight takes d6. Pawn takes because, again, this queen wants to stay in the g-file. And then bishop f4. Here's our all-star piece. It's even better now, because if it were to take d6, it would be checking the king. Threatening checkmate, in fact. Because this king can't move. The only way that you can block a check like this would be with the knight. And then Geller does something wrong here. Maybe. I think he does. Yeah. Let's go ahead. He plays a mistake. This is pretty clever because now the queen has the scope to defend against the bishop d6 check. Right? It's pretty clever. But we're going to see that it doesn't quite work. And before I show you why it doesn't work, let me show you what I think he should have played. So Geller maybe should have played rook d8, defending the pawn a second time, right? Maybe. Now white could play queen e2, which is forming the battery. Huge threats. hx g4, hx g4. Maybe f5, creating tension on the g4 pawn, let's say. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. I want to use this rook. You want to use all your pieces. And then blacks run out of pressure. After, we played f5. I mean, if you play knight f6, then you're blocking your queen's defense of the pawn. I think you just got to throw in the towel here and trade queens. And then white's just got an advantageous endgame. You could play rook e6. You got 3 on here. Your endgame looks better for Bobby Fischer. All right, so maybe rook d8 wasn't all that great. Maybe it's better than d5. Maybe d5 keeps the hope alive of this kind of attack working for Geller. All right. Having said all of that, let's see. Let's get back to where we are. Bishop f4, and then, oh, why didn't I play this yet? d5, right? I thought I had already. I think I'm getting myself confused with all my what ifs. I think I am. All right. What does Bobby Fischer play? Move 18 for white. Let's get Coach Chris back on track. What does Bobby Fischer play here? This is a brilliant move. It's one of those moves where I probably wouldn't do it. I'll give you, you know, maybe a minute to think about that while I talk about some other things. Let's see, I've talked about you know, Bobby Fischer was an interesting character. He ended up becoming world champion and then walking away. After beating Boris Spassky, he walked away from the title. He didn't defend it. G5 is suggested. He achieved what he wanted to achieve and just walked away. Unfortunately, he walked away from chess a fair amount and started becoming quite hateful in life. And that's really a shame. Because when you look at younger Bobby Fischer, you know, he's interviewed on The Tonight Show. I've seen videos, you know, of him. He was charismatic. He was funny. And he was a tenacious chess player. It's just too bad that he decided to retire and then become a hateful person. Very sad. All right. But Queen C2 and G5. These are the suggestions. He played a little bit further. He played Queen. Well, Queen C2 is not so hot. Queen C2, I think you just lose your queen, right? G5 takes pressure off the tension here a little bit for a little bit. But Queen B3. Queen B3 is amazing. Bobby Fischer sees this. He sees this. But he seizes the opportunity to go after this rook. It's amazing. When you watch his plan work out, this was an amazing decision on his part. He must have thought a lot at the chessboard. It wasn't risky to him. He calculated it. This was not a gamble. All right, so HX G4. And then queen goes to B7. Threatening this rook. But black has this check. Uh-oh. Threatening mate. Well, no worries, right? We have our all-star bishop. Remember that guy? Was in the perfect place to shield the king. And now Geller plays rook d8. Saving the rook. And what does Bobby Fischer play here? What does Bobby Fischer play here? Oh, no. We messed up the position somehow. I got in my very... Let's see. What did I do? How did I mess it up twice in the same lesson? Hold on 1 second. Oh, I see what I did. All right, so back with the rook e1, king f8, knight c4, h5, knight takes... Yeah, here I go again. I played too much what ifs, right? Too much what ifs. And I got mixed up in my notes. All right. So we were bishop f4, d5. Then remember the queen b3, ignoring this threat and coming up here. So all that analysis stays the same. And yep, gxh3, queen b7. Hopefully it works this time. Check, threatening mate. Here's our all-star bishop, bishop g3. And now rook goes to d8. And now, what do we play? What does Bobby Fischer play? For real this time. Position matches. Coach Chris. It's, you know, it's a lot of effort doing the chess camp as well as all my private lessons that I teach. So I think I was just a little fatigued today. Usually, you know, one mistake in a lesson, all right. But two, I can do better than that. What does white play here? Who thinks they know? I'll give you one more minute. What would you do here? This is the final move, actual move of the game. The final actual move. It's such a powerful move that Geller resigns. Nope, not queen d8. It is a queen move. Right piece, but no, we can't do that. Where does this queen go? Where should Bobby Fischer move his queen? To e7. Nice try, but see, this knight is still defending that square, right? So not there. Anybody else? There's one other check with the queen. Not here, but what's the other check? No, not c7. It is a check. Can you find a better check for the queen? Look at the checks that the queen can give. Remember, this king can't move. All they can do is block. Watch in the chat. See, I've gotten a little more into it as the week's gone on. I don't need to click back on the YouTube channel to see the chat. I keep it on the side. And that way the chessboard. Let me go ahead and check. Good, the chessboard's perfectly fine. There's one more check. No, b4. Queen to b4, check. And why does that work? Why does Geller resign? Why does Geller resign here? What can he do? Well, I mean, you could try like knight e7, right? But that doesn't work. Then this just goes here, right? And then king goes to g8. Then queen takes d8. And king has to go to h1. And then, you know, I mean, you could do a couple things here, but queen h4 is probably the way to go. And then if king goes back here, it's actually going to be checkmate, right? So they would have to block the queen check with the queen. And they are in tremendous trouble here, right? What else? Let's see. I mean, c5 just delays it, right? Just delays it. Then everything else the same way, right? Boom, smack, boom, boom, boom. And this again. And then queen goes here, and then, yeah, you could just take, right? You just trade, and look, I mean, you got 2 rooks and a bishop. So it's not a forced checkmate. Let's see if there's anything else. I don't think there is, really. I mean, you could block with the queen. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. This check was so powerful. It just stopped Geller. He resigned. We might have time for 1 or 2 more what ifs. We could go back to, let's see, do I want to get into that? You know what? That's a little complicated. That's a little complicated. Let me come back to our home screen. I think it would take longer than the hour. Hang on. Let me bring my face back up. I hope you guys enjoyed this game. Sorry for the couple of mix-ups, but we got it right in the end. And everything that was said still, followed the logic of the game. I just messed up my variation twice. I got a little too far in the what-ifs and didn't return. This happens in real life too sometimes. I'm using a demonstration board, so I'm physically moving pieces on a big chessboard, and then if I go backwards in time and reset up the position and forget to move one piece back or something, same thing happens. Like I said, I've seen all the greats mess up lessons before, so I don't feel too bad about it, and I'm happy to share with you my knowledge of Bobby Fischer. Truly one of the greatest chess players who's ever lived. Same with Capablanca, same with Paul Morphy. I hope these live lessons have maybe made you more passionate about those players, more curious about those players. You can go to dailychessmusings.com and type their names into the search, and you'll find other lessons that I've done on these players. They're tremendous players to study. If you want to get if you really want to deepen your understanding of chess, you don't just play, because then you're going to be repeating some mistakes, and all the ideas in your games comes from your own mind. Minus, I guess, the neat stuff that your opponents might use against you, might give you a fresh idea. But if you really want to deepen your understanding of chess, you go back and you spend some time studying the classic games of chess. And you ask yourself, can I guess their moves? What did Bobby Fischer play? Try and guess all their moves. And then ask yourselves the what ifs. And then you'll have great ideas, creative ideas from the greatest chess minds who have ever existed. You'll understand their ideas, and you'll start using their methods in your game. And that is when some really magical things can happen. With that, I want to say thank you for joining me again. You guys are awesome. I will see you again tomorrow. So long.